Hi, I'm Mark Daly, and I'm here on the All Over the Place podcast where the funsanity never ends.
Hello and welcome back to All Over the Place, the official podcast of Media Pub Live. And before I get to the big news and kicking off of Jim Culver, how are you, my friend?
I am great. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm very excited. Not only do we have a great guest with us tonight, we are kicking off year 3 of All Over the Place, back for our 3rd year. And again, everyone, thanks for tuning in or listening if you're on our audio only platform. And we can't thank you enough we're just going to keep cranking out the shows. You're listening, you're liking, you're sharing, you're subscribing. We love it. Thank you so much for allowing us to have year 3. And as I said, very excited because we have with us tonight the author of the new book, When You Step Upon a Star, Cringeworthy Confessions of a Tabloid Bad Boy. Please welcome to All Over the Place, William Keck.
Well, hey guys, congratulations. Season 3, that's a big deal. You're in the ranks now with the Addams Family and the Munsters. But you're going to go way longer.
We can only keep our fingers crossed that we can eventually get syndicated like those two and live forever.
Yeah.
And we're in color, no less.
That's true. Yes, exactly. Well, that's a good accomplishment. Congratulations.
We could shift to black and white for we'll go back and re-edit the first 2 seasons. Then we can be like Gilligan's Island, then go color moving forward.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Stop me before I make a very obscure old sub reference again. So
listen, no. I mean, this is perfect because my book is loaded with all these old classic stars. I was obsessed with the Bradys and Gilligan's Island, so this is totally my wheelhouse.
Nice. Well, let's just jump right in with that book. So I mean, you started out as like Jim and I and like so many people just loving Hollywood and the celebrities within it, and then you got to be a journalist in one regard. You were the Confessions of a Tabloid Bad Boy, and then moving into just more as the press is saying the more respectable journalism. So what was it that first grabbed you in loving Hollywood?
Well, we just talked about it. I mean, I grew up, I was an only child and lost my dad at an early age. So the TV dads like Mr. Brady and like Charles Ingalls and Herman Munster, they became my surrogate dads. But the difference between most people and me is that I had to meet them. I wanted to come meet my surrogate families. So I was on a mission to do that. It was actually when Lucy died that I was kind of freaked out by that. I'm like, okay, one of my biggest ones is gone now. I got to get my butt out there and start checking these names off. And the Enquirer was the quickest route to doing that. They gave me access to these people, but in kind of unusual ways.
Well, what is one of the more unusual ways that you got to meet all these people?
Well, it wasn't at cocktail parties or sit-down interviews. It was by crashing their weddings and crashing their funerals and sneaking into their hospital rooms and all that sort of stuff. And so I got to meet them, but they didn't always want to meet me. Most of the time, they didn't want to meet me.
Well, and of course, and in the book, you look on the back blurbs of the book, and I've just started, getting into the book, and I love this kind of stuff. It's, but you look on the back, and guys like Bruce Willis, Kelsey Grammer have you've had some some words, so to speak, and so I mean, what are going from one end of the spectrum, like you said, some people are more, and then some are less inviting, some are more inviting. Just running the gamut, like, well, what were some of the just going in and busting into and crashing these things? But what were some of the actual good reactions as opposed to guys threatening to kick your ass?
Well, I think what I'm proudest of is that I was a lot of times pretty quickly able to turn that negative into a positive. And one of the people that comes to mind is I was a huge Bionic fan, Lindsay Wagner and Lee Majors, huge fans of that franchise. And so when I joined the Enquirer, I said, if there's ever a chance to interview one of these Bionic people, I'm all over it. So they said, hey, today's your lucky day, Will. Lindsay Wagner's story. I'm like, oh my God, yes. We want you to go to her father's funeral, sneak in and get an interview with her and find out about her new boy toy that she's dating. So, oh man, I mean, and my license plate of my car is Bionic. So I had to also deal with hiding that behind the church so I wouldn't seem like some stalker freak. But yeah, I found the boyfriend. I got his name. We had a photographer across the street who was getting pictures of them. And then Lindsay came, the boyfriend introduced me, Hi, thank you for coming. How did you know my father? Well, actually, I'm with the Enquirer, and we have photos of you with your boyfriend. I was a little more a little kinder than this. And she said, well, then what do you want? I said, well, maybe a caption to the photo. She said, okay, I'll give you a caption. F you. So here's my idol who I've wanted to meet all my life. I had the little Lindsay Wagner, Jamie Summers bionic figure who just told me to F off. So I said, listen, I totally get it. I'm so sorry. And I kind of just was walking away in shame. And she said, wait a minute. Come on back here. What do you really need to know? And I said, well, I have his first name, maybe his last name, how you met. She was so smart. She turned this around. She and her boyfriend were launching a jewelry line. And they used this opportunity to sell their jewelry line in that article. And that's what it became about. So, and all these years later, Lindsay contributed to my book. I have a photo on my Instagram of Lindsay holding my book. So full circle moment.
And so I noticed that. And so yeah, just being able to turn it around and I guess then going to the other end of the spectrum, what's the worst that you've had to deal with in terms of somebody just telling you to F off and then can just never giving you that reprieve?
Well, there's not a photo, nor will there probably be a photo of Bruce Willis holding my book. One of those quotes on the back of the book is Bruce saying, I'm going to burn down your house. I'm going to find out where you live and you'll have no place to live. And this was, like all of them, a very innocent misunderstanding. He showed up to one of his premieres with a much, much younger girl from Days of Our Lives. And I remembered how his wife, Demi Moore, had been on General Hospital. So at the after party for his premiere, I sort of insinuated that maybe he found his women by watching the daytime soap operas. And he didn't like that. I think he just really, the idea of, John McClane, diehard action hero, sitting back watching Young and the Restless to look for his Friday night date was probably not an image he wanted out there. So yeah, he threatened to burn my house down. Bruce, sadly not in a place to be able to comment. I've shared the chapters with a lot of these people, but his moonlighting co-star Sybil Shepherd did step in, and she wrote a lovely page in the book about how she was sure he was only kidding. He didn't actually intend to torch my casa.
Very, very, very nice save from the on-screen girlfriend. Very nice.
Yeah.
And another thing I like, I'm looking forward to getting into more in the book. I'm about to lay my manhood on the line with this stuff, but I was and whatever big fan of Desperate Housewives, and I know that's something that you hold. You had a lot of access to that one. So what was it like just being able to be on the set with all of that, and some of the best stories you got out of that?
I was with USA Today when the show started, and then I transitioned to TV Guide. So yeah, I was the reporter on that set more than any other. So I did know all the dirt, all the dirty laundry. And I kept it quiet for a long time until my very last article on the show. But I remember my first day on set, I was watching the scene with Eva Longoria and Terry Hatcher, and their characters were going at it. And then when they called cut, they said, what, we hate doing this. We already love each other so much. We're like sisters. So cut 8 years later when the show's wrapping up, and I'm watching a scene with the four of them, with Eva, Terry, Marcia, and Felicity. And they're all lovey-dovey. One of their final scenes together, director yells cut, three of them walk away, and then Terry walks the other way. They weren't speaking to Terry at this time. There had been a secret exposed. She'd asked for some special time off. They'd lied about it to cover that for her. It came out, and then it just kind of created this really unpleasantness, this toxic environment. And yeah, I sat on that until the very end, and I just sort of felt like it was so obvious what was happening. People kind of heard rumors, and I decided to tell it as it was, and not everybody loved that. Terry Hatcher, in fact, it's in the book. She said, one day you'll look up at your reflection in your coffin and not like what you see. And the ABC publicist, I shared that with her, and she said, what kind of narcissist has a mirror in their coffin?
Well,
I would.
Make sure you're not a vampire that's going to come back, I guess.
There we go. Right? Yeah.
Okay, you film enough scenes where someone's clawing their way. They were buried alive and they're trying to get out again.
Oh man, what's that Twilight Zone episode, right, where the prisoner, ends up the bell rings and the caretaker buries him in the backyard. Well, I don't want to give it away, but you know what happens. I mean, right?
Well, as a Twilight Zone episode, I think people have had enough time over the years.
Well, spoiler alert from 70 years ago.
Yes, I think.
Yeah,
things are okay on that one, William. Yeah.
right. In case people haven't seen it, watch the episode where the prisoner dies and the caretaker buries him in the graveyard in the back of the prison. It's better than Shawshank Redemption. And that says a lot.
Great script, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now, the baseball player Lenny Dykstra was infamous for getting dirt on umpires. One of his big things, so that he could, when he gets up to bat, he would just say, "Hey, so heard you're hanging out with so and so, and a married umpire," and so they would give him a good strike zone apparently.
Wow.
Speaking as an umpire, not that we're influenced by this one way or the other. So, but did anyone ever come to you looking for some dirt so they could hold it over somebody's head?
The Enquirer was in the news recently during the Trump trial for the whole catch and kill with Stormy Daniels, and they revealed that yes, they would buy stories and then cover them up to protect certain people. So that kind of thing you're talking about has gone on in one way or another forever. When I was there, what would happen is we would receive nude photos. And we couldn't put nude photos in the Enquirer. We were a family magazine, despite everything we did. But we tucked them away in our safe, and we let it be known that we had these. There was a huge file on Bill Cosby. They knew about all these things that we now know about, but there was never a story about it because they had a relationship, a deal made. Whenever they needed Bill to come on the phone and talk about a Father's Day story or to talk about what's going to happen on the Cosby Show, he was always accessible, which was very unusual for a star of his stature to be that amenable to working with the Enquirer. So those kind of things happen. We would find out about a celebrity's divorce, and they would say, "God, please, can you kind of cover this up, and I'll invite you to cover the wedding." That kind of thing. Deals.
Gotcha. Now, I think back to another, you mentioned the Shawshank Redemption. Another of my favorite scripts from the 90s and just of all time is LA Confidential, where we had, on the hush hush.
Oh, yeah.
And, throughout the years, Hollywood's always had, the publicists were there to guard the secrets. Again, you allow certain things out there and not.
Yeah.
But now, how do you view social media, where it seems like everybody's out there just saying everything, and there's not a whole lot of secrets anymore?
You're absolutely right. Everything's changed. I think that when it comes time for Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez to break the news of their divorce, it won't be in a tabloid. It'll be from their social media. We have decided to amicably, for the sake of the children, we ask for privacy. That's the way it's done now. They get the jump on things. They control the narrative. So that can be easier with the publicist. They can really kind of aim when it's gonna break and how the wording is. But it also can be difficult for publicists because celebrities sometimes go rogue, do it themselves. So yeah, it's totally changed. And as a result, the tabloids just aren't what they used to be. It's kind of hard to find the Enquirer these days. If you go onto their website, they haven't updated their website in about 2 years. There's a story on there, one of the lead stories, about why James Caan can't find the right woman. Well, James Caan has been dead for a couple
I know the
years.
reason now.
Probably, unless he's like a zombie. Jim, you're all about zombies. So
Exactly.
zombies need love too.
Zombie James Caan. I think we're onto a script there, Jim.
Ooh,
Zombies are
I
bad
love
enough,
it.
but Zombie James Caan is terrifying.
I
That guy,
love it.
I wouldn't mess with that guy while he was alive.
Seriously. Ooh.
Well, they did shoot Sonny's face up enough so they couldn't have an open coffin funeral. So that would be very good. And of course, TMZ covers things in kind of in that tabloid journalism realm. But so what was it for you? You first you start the Enquirer, then you say you go to TV Guide and USA Today. What in you just what was the evolution like as you just became a more respectable journalist through the years?
Right. Well, I was in my early 20s when I worked at the Enquirer, and I always told myself I don't want this to be my life. I saw people who had started there in their 20s and they were now in their 50s, and I'm like, this is temporary. This is just a launching pad. So after 3 years, I quit. It was actually a very kind of sad photo on the cover of the Enquirer of Raquel Welch, just looking sort of despondent, and talked about the sad, lonely life of Raquel Welch. I'm like, ick. I don't want to be doing this anymore. So yeah, but it was hard to get back into the swing of things. I got a job, a freelance gig with LA Times, and that led to USA Today, Entertainment Weekly. But what I found, guys, is that even though I quit the Enquirer hadn't necessarily quit me. The things that I learned, the tricks of the trade were still in my blood. And these things would come out in interviews and I would get in trouble. So I still had a lot of evolving to do, and the book is also about that, how I learned to make nice with these people.
What prompted you to get the book out now and tell these stories?
Yeah, well, I saved everything. I saved every notebook, every tape recorded interview, every photograph with these celebrities, every clipping of every article I ever did. I mean, I guess I was like a hoarder, and I've been crafting a book, but it was really during the pandemic when I sat down with all this stuff, and I just I got to throw this away, but this stuff is just too good and juicy not to share, and that really became what the book is now. So now I can throw this stuff away and just have it all in here. Much easier to store.
A good condensed coffee table book. Yes, it's all right there. Not thousands of things. As I look behind me in my father's office with just
and I will say, I mean, I never missed an opportunity to get a photo with these people, and a lot of people I work with, my colleagues, thought that was unprofessional, and they have a point, I guess. But I saw the big picture. Like, I wanted to meet these legends. They're not going to be around that much longer. And I went for it. And so the book, as a result, has over 200 photos in it.
Did you get any pushback from anyone, like any celebrities that just said, keep me out of your book? You better not include me in that?
No, because really here's the deal. I really want to say this, that it's not a tell-all about them anymore. I did that back in the day. It's really a tell-all about how I got these secrets out of them. It's my apology to them. It's sort of my evolution. And yeah, I gave them a chance to respond. I shared the chapters with a lot of them that I felt needing to see it. And some of them chose to respond with an essay of their own. We talked about the Desperate Housewives. I had done a story at home with Marsha Cross, who played Bree, and I confronted her in this very happy at-home interview about nude photos that had leaked that morning, and kind of tainted the whole interview. Well, cut to 10 years later, and she writes a lovely essay about how that was so minor compared to our overall relationship. So it was a great way to actually heal relationships. I hadn't spoken to Victoria Principal in many, many years. When she found out about the book, she called me. We had a nice hour conversation, and all is good. So this really, I felt, was something I needed to do. I could have done it privately, but I'm doing it in the form of this book, and I feel like I've cleared the air.
I like it. You're like Weird Al. You're going to do the book, but you're going to talk to the people so that you can actually be on good terms with them. And yeah,
sure. I who wouldn't want to be compared to Weird Al? Absolutely.
My last name's Pervoznik. I own an accordion. I guess it's in there somewhere. So,
what's your favorite Weird Al song, guys?
Oh, well, do you want a parody, or do you want one of his style songs?
Well, parody.
Parody. Well, right now, because I'm a former editor and just love the English language. I love his take on Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines, Word Crimes.
Oh, okay.
Which actually has been used across the country by English teachers because he just lays out all these grammar lessons for people.
So he's still recording, and you're following him with the new release.
That's right. I've seen him 7 times, and I'm looking forward to seeing him the 8th time. So yeah.
Wow. I'm thinking way back to like Fat, Michael Jackson's.
Oh no. The classics, Fat, Eat It. What's the
Eat It?
The Police. There's a sale on Always Be King of Suede instead of King of Suede.
Right.
Going way back to the In 3D albums, yes, and Dare to Be Stupid. Good times. But we're going down a hole that we don't need to go down. This is a Weird Al rabbit hole. We could be here for hours.
Bring it.
I'm gonna say Dare to Be Stupid for my all-time favorite, just for replayability. But beyond that, One More Minute, which is probably the best breakup song of all time.
Oh man, sad. I talk about that in here too. I mean, all my personal demons. Like, I felt since I spent so many years exposing their scandals that I really should kind of expose some of my private things. So I confess some of the horrible things I had to do to get stories. I was sent to Vegas to try to find out if Kelsey Grammer's then fiance had worked in Vegas as a hooker. So as a result, I had to order the service to my room at the Mirage and confirm whether or not this was an escort service. And I'll leave it at that. What I had to do to prove or disprove that this was in fact a prostitution ring. So yeah, I mean, I lay it all out there. I think some people are really going to be shocked, especially my mom. I said certain chapters you maybe don't want to read. I just maybe pull out a few chapters to be safe.
And was that a good cathartic process for you, though, as you went through with the, like you said, with the other people, and then getting to expose your own demons?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I talk about the hypocrisy. I mean, when I was in my early 20s and I was exposing all these affairs and the celebrities' private scandals, I was just totally lying about my own life. I was deep in the closet talking about all the girls and and my dates, and it was all fake. So as a result of me getting honest about my own life, being gay, that led to me being wanting to be honest in my professional life as well. They went hand in hand. So
Sure.
that's a big part of this as well. Just becoming authentic.
Well, I am definitely looking forward to delving into this book more. I mean, Hollywood stories, and like I lived in LA for 21 years. I mean, it's got to being on set. It's just as like I said, as hypocritical and phony as Hollywood can be. It's still celebrity still means something, and it's what like I said, what I've read the book so far. And folks, you can definitely want to check this out. Go to barnesandnoble.com and look for When You Step Upon a Star. And when you step upon a star, of course, when you wish upon a star, do you envision a blowback coming from Disney?
I don't think so. I think I'll probably be okay. I did do one of these interviews recently, and they introduced the book as When You Wish Upon a Star. And I was, because then Disney would probably come after me. But no,
There's a problem,
it's about
yes.
as different from a Disney cartoon as you could possibly get. Maybe a really, really, really twisted version of Peter Pan.
I think we called it The Lost Boys, didn't we?
Absolutely. Great movie, Kiefer. Love it.
Folks, once again, you're watching or listening to All Over the Place, the official podcast of Media Pub Live. We have with us tonight, this week, William Keck, and we're talking about his book, When You Step Upon a Star, Cringeworthy Confessions of a Tabloid Bad Boy. Try saying that 5 times fast, folks. I think you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And no, we talked about, being able to get the permission or just getting all these, people to give their own stories to go along with yours. Which, were there any that really meant a little bit more to you than others?
Yeah, well, obviously Lindsay Wagner. I mean, after that whole thing, I really wanted something from her, and that finally happened. Trying to go through these, what was sad was the celebrities who passed that I couldn't reach out to and make amends with. And Dean Martin, somebody I totally worshipped. I mean, a legend from being a crooner and part of the original Ocean's 11 cast, the Rat Pack. I crashed his funeral. I was up in a tree when his funeral was taking place. I actually rented a tree. There was a neighbor of the cemetery, and his tree had a branch that extended out over the wall. I had been let out of the cemetery by security, so I paid $500 for this guy, and I was up in the tree, and I could see Angie Dickinson and Jerry Lewis and Sinatra and Don Rickles, all these people coming and writing in the guest book and then going into the chapel. We had a photographer up there as well who tried to get some shots. That didn't work out so well. And then, at the end of the night, I was listening to Rosemary Clooney singing Everybody Loves Somebody Sometimes. I had my own private Dean Martin tribute concert up there in this tree. I mean, so bizarre stuff. So I didn't get to apologize to Dean. Instead, I went to his best friend, one of his best friends, Rich Little, the impressionist. And Rich wrote a couple pages in the book about how Dean really had it hard in his final years, but that he would have gotten a kick out of knowing a tabloid reporter was up in a tree trying to listen in. That was the kind of sense of humor he had.
He'd probably wear it as a badge of honor, honestly.
Yeah, right, totally. And then they asked, well, what about Sinatra? He said, oh, no. Sinatra would have chopped down the tree and then come after me.
Punched your lights out, yeah.
Totally, Jim, totally.
He would have found, unlike Bruce, he would have, Bruce going and doing it and burning your house down himself. Dean would have, Frank would have found somebody to burn it down for him.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know nothing about that. I'm just saying. That's just a guess.
But we love Frank.
Absolutely.
Yes.
How can't you love Frank? And I know you've got book signings coming up too. Are any of the book signings going to involve any of the people who are mentioned in the book?
Well, yeah, I have one coming up at a Barnes & Noble, and I was obsessed with the Brady Bunch. It's actually the very first chapter in my book about how I stalk them and sort of expose some of their things. And one of the Bradys, Peter Brady, Christopher Knight, is going to be at the signing. And then I'm going to be doing his podcast, The Brady Boys, The Brady
Nice.
Bros, that he and Barry Williams do. So, yeah, it's been a nice chance to kind of support each other in different ways. And there's some other things that'll be coming up too. I think there's going to be some opportunities for celebrities who have written books of their own for us to get together and just kind of talk about this experience of hunting for stories, being hunted, bringing in some publicists into the conversation. So I think that there's something that's that could be big with that.
So, of course, you can get When You Step Upon a Star in hardcover and paperback, and also Apple Books,
Kindle as well.
Well. Now, this book, I'm sure, is going to do well. Is there a possible volume 2 down the line?
Well, there are 39 chapters in here. I think originally there were about 80 chapters. So, yeah, I had to make some cuts. I chose to go with stories that were very physical in this book, where I'm running away, being chased, I'm stealing garbage, that kind of stuff. High-speed chases. I had a high-speed chase with both Britney Spears and Elizabeth Taylor, two ends of the spectrum there. So, but there's a lot more stories filed away here that could be told. Who knows? I may make it an online extra at one point, or man, it's brutal though. I mean, this took forever to give birth to this book. We'll see. We'll see if the demand is high. Then I'll go back to work on part 2. What would the title be? More Stepping on the Stars, or Stepping Harder on the Stars?
Let's see. I'm trying, without getting you in trouble more with Disney, as something that not bare necessities though. We don't want to do it. Well, maybe. But again, folks, that wasn't a no.
Yeah.
So, but for right now, be sure you go to barnesandnoble.com, check out William Keck's book. And William, I want to thank you once again for coming on, talking about When You Step Upon a Star with us. And welcome back anytime, whether it's part 2 or part 3. We'd love having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, guys. And I just want to say one more thing, that the end of each chapter ends with a lesson learned. So I tell these stories about how horrible I was, but I also end with like a little note that I think other people could possibly relate to and apply to their own lives. You can't change the past, but you can always change what you are and what you're going to be in the future.
Nice. Love it. Looking forward to delving more into the book, When You Step Upon a Star, Cringeworthy Confessions of a Tabloid Bad Boy, from William Keck. Thanks, everyone, for listening or watching All Over the Place, the official podcast of Media Pub Live. We'll be back real soon. Thanks for listening or watching. All Over the Place, where the fun sanity never ends.